Welcome back to Comparative Civil and Islamic Law Insights channel, and my name is Mahmoud Keilani, Bachelor of Law with a Master's and Doctorate in Comparative Civil Law from the University of Rome, Master's in Diplomacy and International Cooperation from the University of Trieste, plus diplomas in International Law from Louvain and Harvard Universities. I welcome you all your questions and thoughtful comments on research topics. Today we are diving into a subject that touches us all, which is inheritance, but not just inheritance in general. We'll look at the surprising differences between civil systems and Islamic rules. Who really gets more when someone passes away, and are daughters treated the same as sons? What about spouses? Stick around because the answers may surprise you. Let's start with the basics. Inheritance law is basically a society's way of answering this question: who gets what when someone dies? Now, across the world, this can vary drastically. In civil law systems, think Europe, the Americans, much of Asia, the idea is generally equality among children and sometimes spouses. Wills are common, and courts often in the ensure fair distribution. Islamic inheritance, on the other hand, is governed by detailed religious rules laid out in the Quran and Hadith. These rules are incredibly precise. They prescribe exactly what inherits and how much, often down to fractions like half or one eighth, etc. There's less discretion. What's written is law. So already we see a difference. Civil law gives more flexibility, while Islamic law is more rigid but precise. In the so we will talk about the basics of civil inheritance. In most civil law countries, inheritance works on a simple principle: equal division among children. If someone has a spouse, the surviving spouse usually gets a share, sometimes even a life interest in the property, and the rest is divided equally among the children. For example, let's say a parent passes away with three children and a spouse. The estate might be divided into four equal shares: one for the spouse and one for each children. The beauty of this system is simplicity and the principle of equality. Everyone is considered equal regardless of gender. But here's where things get interesting: the testator, the person who owns the property. He can usually leave extra to anyone through a will. So while the law sets a default, there is flexibility. The basics of the Islamic inheritance, on the other hand, called the Islamic inheritance law, is also called al-mirath, Qanun al-mirath, is much more formulaic. The Quran provides very specific shares. For instance, a son typically inherits twice as much as a daughter. That's right, 2 to 1. A surviving spouse gets a fixed portion. For a husband, it's half of his decreased wife's estate if she has no children, but only 1/4 if there are children. For a wife, it's 1/4 if there are children and 1/8 if not. These rules are meant to reflect financial responsibility in Islamic law, men are expected to provide for the family after the inheritance, whereas women are financially independent once they inherit. But here is where people get surprised. In some cases, daughters can end up with more than sons, or spouses can get more than children. Spouses can get more than children, depending on who else is alive. It's not always sons get more, daughters get less across the board, and there are even cases where distant relatives inherit before siblings, something most civil systems would never allow. Let's see some real life examples and break this down with the examples. It's easier to see the differences. For example, a parent passes away, leaving one son and one daughter. In civil law, the estate is split 50-50, simple. In Islamic law, the son inherits 2/3, the daughter 1/3. Another example. A parent dies, leaving one daughter and a spouse, no sons. Civil law says the spouse might get 50%, the daughter 50%. Islamic law says the daughter could inherit half, the spouse 1/8 or 1/4, depending on circumstances. Example number 3. No children, but parents, siblings, and spouse are alive. Civil law, parents and siblings might share eventually, spouse gets a large chunk. Islamic law, parents get fixed shares, siblings may get only what's left, and the spouse still has a prescribed portion. So, depending on the combination of hers, sometimes civil law can actually favor daughters and spouses more than Islamic law, and sometimes Islamic law gives more structured and predictable share that protects smaller heirs. Here's the part that often surprises people. It's not always obvious who ends up with more. Let's look at some scenarios. Number 1. Multiple daughters and no sons. In civil law, they share equally. In Islamic law, they collectively might inherit 2/3, leaving the rest to other relatives. So the total share per daughter could actually be less than in civil law. Number 3. Spouses in different systems. In civil law, spouses often get the largest share, especially if the will favors them. In Islamic law, the share is fixed, so a spouse might feel under-inherited compared to civil systems. But the law ensures everyone else gets a fair portion too. Scenario number 3. Extended family involvement. Islamic inheritance often includes grandparents, uncles, aunts, even cousins. In certain cases, civil law usually prioritizes the nuclear family first. This can drastically shift who actually inherits more. So the takeaway, it's not as simple as civil law favors women or Islamic law favors men. The reality depends on family composition, presence of children, and which relatives are alive. That's the nuance most people miss, actually. You might be wondering, why does this matter if you live in a country with one system or another? Well, first, globalization means families are often split across legal systems. A Muslim family, for example, in France, might face civil law inheritance and religious expectations at the same time. Second, understanding these differences is critical for planning wills, trust, and estate planning. need to respect both legal and cultural expectations, otherwise, disputes can erupt. And finally, it challenges our assumptions about fairness. Civil law emphasizes equality, Islamic law emphasizes a mix of equity and responsibility. And this is very important. Both aim to protect heirs, but in very different ways. Our conclusion. So, who inherits more? The answer it depends. Uh, Civil inheritance systems often favor equality, flexibility, and simplicity, sometimes giving daughters and spouses more. Islamic inheritance is formulaic, ensuring specific shares for each heir, which can favor men in some scenarios, but also protects women and other relatives in others. The key takeaway is that inheritance is never one size fits all. Family composition, the presence of spouses, children, or extended relatives. All of these factors dramatically affect the outcome, and sometimes the rules are counterintuitive. So, thank you for joining me today on this exploration of inherited systems. And if you enjoyed this discussion and want more insights into law, culture, and society, make sure to like and subscribe and hit the notification bell. And remember, understanding these systems isn't just for lawyers, it's also for anyone who wants to plan responsibly and think critically about fairness. I wish you a nice evening and see you again for next episodes. Goodbye.